me tonight. Please be reminded that video live streaming is prohibited in the commission chambers. We welcome audio and video recordings. The areas at the back corners are designated areas for audio and video recordings, as you can see back in the roped off areas in the back of the commission chambers. If these areas reach capacity, the upper mezzanine area will also become a designated area. Thank you.
Good evening. We have one request to address the commission. Ms. Valerie Guzman from United Way. Ms. Guzman, if you'd please come to the podium. I'd like to remind you, I've already said your name, so I don't guess you need to give us your name, but if you would, please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. You'll hear a tone go off after 3 minutes, and I'll ask you to wrap up after that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioners, for having me here. The last time I was here, I told you a personal story of someone who we've directly was affected by the contributions of United Way. And so with that being said, I'm going to give you some more bigger numbers. That last year alone, we helped 1,300 citizens. Manna Cafe packed 18,000 boxes. On the day of action, we packed 10,000 bags for students to go to school, not just with one pencil and a notebook. We gave them school supplies so that every child would go into the Montgomery County school system with the school supplies that they were needing. And I know you all said, you heard that, and that was good, and citizens should do that. But let me tell you the economic impact that nonprofits have. We can do more and faster than the government can do. It's just not possible. What we can do with $5 would normally cost $20 for another organization. If you guys had to, all of a sudden, we have a homeless problem, and you had to set up a whole nother place, you had to set up an organization, you had to hire people. We have organizations that already do that. What would that look like? Nonprofits every day make an impact on our community. So nonprofits employ 12 million people a year. That's just employees, that's just workers, that's white collar jobs, right? However, we do millions, we provide millions above what we are for people to get jobs. So we're already changing the impact of our community, what that looks like. So then when we have an opportunity, so just think about it. This past summer, we decided we were gonna pack those 10,000 bags, right, for school supplies. You couldn't get a crown in Clarksville, Tennessee, because our community went out and bought crowns. Was that an impact on our community? Absolutely. They bought scissors, they bought glue, they bought notebooks, they bought pens, they bought color pencils to put in bags, 10,000 bags. That's an impact. They bought it locally. For that moment, our community came together and we did something. With people who gave money, I went to Staples and said, hey, we're doing this big thing. And they said, we want to be involved. So they took the money that I had and they made it so it tripled because I was a nonprofit. So that what we didn't have, I was able to supply it. And we gave those children 10,000 bags. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. That's all I had to say. And you guys all have a brochure. Look inside.
Ms. Guzman. We will now call our October 7, 2019 informal commission meeting to order. We have one presentation, actually an update from our school system. Mr. House.
Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Commissioners. Millard House, Director of Schools with the Clarksville Montgomery County School District. And it brings me a great pleasure to be able to bring you all an update in reference to what's going on in CMCSS. As you all know, on an annual basis, we take serious the process for strategic planning. And what I'd like to do is walk you through what that strategic planning looks like and how it's being executed for the 1920 school year. And before I get started, Mayor, I'd just like to thank you for allowing me for the next 2 hours to present to the commission and share this information. I'm extremely elated to do so. The first thing that I'll share, and this will take about a good 10 minutes, and would be glad to ask any questions thereafter. First thing that I'd like to share is something that has not changed, and that's our mission, which is to educate and empower our students to reach their potential. Our vision hasn't changed as well, and I think the key word in our vision, as it reads, all of our students will graduate college and career ready, is the and. As we know, we're an economic engine in Montgomery County, and our students are showing us by looking at the data that in many cases, many of our kids want to go directly to college, about 60% of them, and about 40% want to move forward and look at the opportunities that are out there in Montgomery County, and that's the and, career. Now, one of the big things as we talk about our 4 goals, and the first goal is to improve student achievement. We had a pretty good year last year, and I say pretty good. Our graduation rate raised to over 95%, which we're very proud of. We're looking at ensuring that our lowest performing schools make our largest strides. So from an equity standpoint, we're continuing to push hard. One of the most interesting things that we've seen as a part of the growth pattern that we're seeing is an insurgence of more students that have social and emotional needs. So I'll share a quick clip with you in reference to kind of what that looks like and how we're supporting it.
CMCSS faculty, staff, and administrators will focus on interactive and instructional strategies that help build positive relationships with students. School counselors will continue to support students through classroom lessons, small groups, and one-on-one sessions to develop social and emotional skills. Administrative teams will be trained to implement restorative practices and multi-tiered systems of support for students. Professional learning opportunities will help school staff learn to support students who have experienced trauma or adverse childhood experiences so that they can be equipped to handle the instructional and emotional needs of all students.
So that is one of the big items that we're seeing across the county. And it only takes a handful of students that come into a school with social and emotional needs to cause some pretty serious disruptions in the school. So it's important for us to provide those supports in our schools, which we're doing by leaps and bounds now, and I'm very proud of. By far, are we perfect, but we're definitely making strides in terms of what that looks like. Something else that we're focusing on is the strengthening our early instruction in terms of pre-K programming out there. We went from 16 pre-K programs to 18. It's a grant process in the state of Tennessee right now, and it's not an easy process to get brand new pre-K programs. Of course, we have 24 elementary schools. We would love to have a pre-K classroom in every elementary school, and we're going to continue to strive for that and grow. There are some school systems in Tennessee that actually are seeing less and less pre-K classrooms, but we're seeing the growth, and we look forward to continuing to write that grant as we move forward.
Ready Graduate initiatives will continue to focus on increasing student post-secondary and career readiness. High schools will work to expand and support current dual enrollment and AP offerings. In addition, new early post-secondary opportunities for students will be piloted, including a standalone HVAC strand for the early technical college at TCAT, avid elective courses for middle and high schoolers on select campuses, and the opening of the Academy of Teaching and Learning at West Creek High. For the first time, graduating seniors will have the opportunity to earn a work ethic distinction on their diploma. This distinction will showcase the soft skills of students that local employers have deemed necessary for successful employment in our community.
So diversifying our portfolio is what's important here. We want to ensure that our kids have several different opportunities to choose from our language immersion program to the seven different academies that we have throughout our high schools. We're looking to diversify that portfolio more and more. I tell parents all the time that picking a school for a child is almost like picking a real good fitting shoe. You shouldn't send your child to a school just because it's tradition. You should send that child to a particular school that fits their particular needs. And we feel like we can diversify that portfolio wide enough to ensure that we have an array of different fits for different kids that are out there. Also, enhancing our standard-based curriculum instruction in terms of assessment is something that we're continuing to focus on as well. That was goal number one. Goal number two is maximizing employee capacity. And in doing so, we are exploring the impact of employee attendance. As we continue to grow as a school district, we're now 5,100 employees throughout the school district. And as you can imagine, the more employees you get, the more attendance issues you get. So we're working on several different things to encourage great attendance from our Teacher of the Year programs, our Support Employee of the Year's programs, things that we didn't have a few years ago that we feel like are making a dent in what this looks like. We also are examining in partnership, of course, with the county, our on-site services and diversifying the employee wellness opportunity. And I say in partnership because all county employees, including the school system, get to benefit from the on-site clinics. And if you're familiar with those, it is a huge win for employees. I actually don't, it may not be smart for me to say this, but I'll just be upfront. I actually don't have a primary care doctor because these folks take care of me. Whenever I'm in need, I go to the on-site clinic. Increasing our individualized professional learning opportunities. With us being such a large school district now, we are actually holding our own professional development conferences. So this past summer, all of our employees in the school district had the opportunity to come to what we call our Engage conference. And it's an opportunity for all employees to learn and get that professional growth that we know is extremely important. We offered up to 800 different courses for teachers to come in and take from anything that you can imagine. We had guests to come in to teach many of those, and we actually taught many of them ourselves. So we're very proud of what our professional learning opportunities look like and ensuring that we build capacity on an ongoing basis. The third of 4 goals that I'll share with you is improving efficiency and effectiveness throughout the school district. And in doing this, refining student services department was a big piece of this. We know that we're a huge military community, and we chose to move forward. I think the last time I talked to you, I said that we were looking at possibly opening an enrollment center at our student services department. Well, I'm proud to share with you that we opened it, and over the course of the summer, we had over 3,000 visits to this enrollment center at Greenwood. And of those 3,000 visits, 60% of them were from individuals from our military community. This is a place where if you have an elementary kid, a middle school, and a high school kid, you can come to one stop and shop and enroll all of your children. You also, if you're a previous student, you can get transcripts or whatever it is that you may need to get at this place. It's a wonderful opportunity with kiosks, electronic kiosks, where parents can take care of whatever it is that they need to take care of. Improving student transportation is another area that we're continuously improving. As you can imagine, that first week or 2 of school is generally a nightmare because what happens, we ask for parents to sign up for bus routes, but generally on that first day of school, guess who's standing on the bus stop sometimes and they hadn't signed up? They're our students, and we're going to transport them regardless. So it's an ongoing process during the first 2, maybe 3 weeks of school to ensure that we improve those services, make sure that we iron out, add buses, add bus drivers, everything that we need to. It's an area that will always be an area of improvement that we're working hard to do so. We did add some great GPS software this year. We also in partnership, I don't see Sheriff Fuzan, but in partnership with, there he is over there, with Sheriff, we're moving forward with a program that will allow for us to put a few cameras on buses to see who's running stop signs in and around our buses. So we'll be partnering to develop what that looks like, and very, very excited about ensuring that our students are safe on as well as on the way and as they get off of our buses. Improving organizational efficiency through technology. We know that we are in the digital age, and it's important that we ensure that our students have exactly what it is that they need from a technological standpoint. And we are pushing that. We're a one-to-one district, which means every student from 6th grade through 12th grade has a computer that they take home. From 5th grade on down to kindergarten, students have that technology when they get to school for the most part. But we're ensuring that our students are able to operate much like they will on a daily basis in careers in Montgomery County and beyond. The last goal that I'll mention is engaging the public in support of student achievement. I'm taking the next 2 months and I'm doing exactly what I'm doing today and sharing our strategic work. I've done it, I think, about probably 7 or 8 times in the last 2 weeks, and I probably have 10 or so more opportunities like this to get out and share what it is that we're doing, get feedback. We also have several different, we have a parent a feedback group, a teacher feedback group, we have a student feedback group. We're doing multiple surveys to generate feedback, and that's what we do to ensure that we get the necessary information to help us move forward and strategically plan for next school year. So it's not just what we think, it's also what our community thinks, and we want to ensure that the voice of our community is a part of what we do. So this is something that's extremely important and near and dear to me. The last thing I'll share in reference to this is,
Ideally, equity in CMCSS means students are afforded equal educational opportunities. Surprising to many, this sets a high standard for how students' needs should be addressed, and there is no simple answer to achieving it. Last school year, CMCSS implemented Prep for Success, a collaboration with the United Way of the Greater Clarksville region to support economically disadvantaged students. Activating a community-based movement to address and sustain the needs of students will be an ongoing goal in educating, equipping, and empowering them to reach their potential.
you know, all of our students in Montgomery County, and I'll close with this, have a different starting point. Some have a starting point where they're getting incredible experiences above and beyond what they'll get at school, traveling the nation, traveling the country, and some of them have never left their neighborhood. So in equalizing what that looks like, and Ms. Guzman shared this extremely well, we have an equity initiative to ensure that we hopefully close the gap for many of those students that might have struggles, because we want all of our students to be successful, and we're going to work towards ensuring they have exactly what it is that they need on a daily basis. Mayor, with that being said, that concludes my report, and I'd be glad to answer any questions if there might be any.
Thank you, Mr. House. Any questions of Mr. House? You must have answered them all.
Thank you,
sir.
Commissioners. My pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. House. Appreciate you. All right, Commissioners, we don't have any zoning cases this month, so we'll jump right into our resolutions. First resolution is 1910-1, resolution of Montgomery County Board of Commissioners authorizing the acceptance of grant funds from the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security, Tennessee Highway Safety Office. This is a $50,000 non-matching grant. It goes to sobriety checkpoints, seatbelt law, that type of stuff, Sheriff.
Yes, sir. Same one from every year that we've had last several years.
Anyone have any questions of the sheriff on this grant? All right. Thanks, Sheriff. Good job.
I've got number two.
Okay. Number 1910-2 is a resolution to appropriate funds from the Sheriff's Office Data Processing Reserve Account. This is reserve dollars coming out of a reserve account, and it's for computer equipment, Sheriff?
That's correct. Data processing funds is going to be paying for the replacement of some patrol laptops, a WatchGuard server for our camera system,
some other upgrades and desktop replacements. And that all comes out of non-tax dollars to that data processing account. So that's what this is.
Any questions on 1910-2? Commissioner Gannon?
I just got a question on the one before.
Oh. Oh, okay.
There's no match on that one, correct? On the
No
previous one?
match.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
I think that one's red now.
No, it's psychedelic over here, see?
Oh, okay. Well, use Mr. Keen's.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. I'm scared you might get up and start singing with that thing in your hand.
God save us all, sir.
No, no kidding. Thank you, Sheriff.
All right, thank you.
1910-3 is a resolution authorizing amendment to the budget for the acceptance of additional state grant funds from the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. Commissioners, this is for the Veterans Treatment Court. It's $30,000. They're going to use it for a part-time case manager. And I must report to you that during the Budget Committee meeting, this actually was voted down. I've since talked to Mr. Moss. Mr. Moss is here to answer any questions. And so there were some questions that were not answered at our Budget Committee meeting, and we weren't sure about whether this grant was reoccurring or not. And so Mr. Moss has answered those questions. I think you all have a packet on your desk.
Yes, sir.
A letter from Mr. Moss, and he's also, that has been emailed to you. But Mr. Moss, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll kind of go over some backstory about the Veterans Treatment Court. The Montgomery County Veterans Treatment Court is a hybrid substance abuse and mental health court that's designed to judicially monitor treatment of veterans in the criminal justice system struggling with substance abuse and mental health diseases and or co-occurring disorders. The court's objective is to provide veterans with substance abuse and mental health treatment services coupled with academic and vocational skills advancement while actively assisting with residential outpatient and transitional services leading to job placement and job retention. Some of the main components that we do in the Veterans Treatment Court, it plays an important role in improving public safety, reduces the rate of recidivism, saves taxpayer dollars, and more importantly, restores the lives of those veterans who served our country. And the governor had an initiative in 2019 where he wanted to address the comprehensive plan to address criminal justice and public safety in the state. And his exact quote was, we must significantly improve public safety in our state, and I believe it starts with criminal justice system. We will focus on helping individuals to ensure that there's a pathway to a productive life beyond crime and ultimately make our state a safer place. Individuals who are successfully diverted through these programs are estimated to save the state average of more than $20,000 per individual in recovery correction costs. So I've given each commissioner a letter in reference to what we do, more detailed in reference to what we do in the Veterans Treatment Court and how we help reduce the rate of recidivism and how we save taxpayer dollars. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll yield the floor to the commissioners to answer any questions or concerns or address any kind of clarifying questions as well.
Commissioner Beal?
Thank you. Did you say that the Budget Committee voted this down? Voted no?
That is correct.
Can I ask why?
Well, as I explained, Mr. Moss was not there. The concern with the Budget Committee was that it was a one-time grant. And so next year, and actually it goes back further than that, this position was requested in the budget during the budget process. It was cut by the Budget Committee. Then this grant came along. They've asked for a part-time position for the grant. The concern at the Budget Committee was that it was a one-time funded grant, and then we would be adding a new employee next year without grant funds available.
Could we approve this and then let's say we don't get the grant next year or whatnot? Maybe just have this employee for 1 year?
I think what Mr. Moss has provided is a letter from the state saying this will be a reoccurring grant.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
So I think if all that would have been known at the Budget Committee, it might have been looked at a little bit differently, and I see some of them shaking their heads. Commissioner Gannon?
And I think I read in there too, there's no matching funds for this either, correct?
You're correct, yes, sir.
Commissioner Knight?
Well, I don't have a question. I just want to say I had the opportunity to visit during one of the VTC's meeting, and I want to say thank you for what you do for veterans in our community.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I want to thank each and every one of you and what you do for veterans in our community as well.
And I see a lot of folks with VTC shirts on here tonight too. I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Moss? Thank you, sir. 1910-4 is a resolution to provide funding in the amount of $130,000 to the United Way of the Greater Clarksville Region, a tax-exempt organization under 501c3 of the IRS or the Internal Revenue Code. Any questions regarding 1910-4? Commissioner Leverett.
Yes. I actually went and spent some time with the United Way because I wanted to know what was the concerns of my fellow commissioners as to the support of the United Way. As far back as I can track, at least 4 years I went back. We have been consistently supporting United Way because of the work that they do. Now, I understand that this may be a controversy to some of my fellow commissioners, but we have to understand, and the point I'm trying to get across is that nonprofits are what you can call a mediator between government and people. Because we have such a large population here in Montgomery County, it may be difficult for us as a legislative body and a governing body to provide the vast services that our citizens need here for health and human services. Since the early 1990s, nonprofits have been dependent upon or partnering with government entities for funding so they can do the job that governments can't do. And so if there's any questions that my fellow commissioners have, I ask that we get it out now in this formal setting, because as we're growing, the needs are growing. And I can say, as a representative of most of the people who live in zip code 37040, they are very thankful and grateful and utilize the services that the United Way provides. So if we have any questions, let's just go ahead and discuss now.
Thank you, Commissioner Leverett. Commissioner Beal?
I actually have a couple of questions, and I'm not sure if it'd be appropriate to ask Ms. Guzman to come back up so that we can ask her questions. Would that be okay?
Without objection from the commission, I have no problem with Ms. Guzman coming back up.
Hi.
Hi.
Alrighty, so I do have a couple of quick questions. The United Way serves Montgomery County, Stewart County, and Houston County, correct? Do either of those counties provide funding to the organization?
Actually, those communities are really small, but the amount that the Montgomery County gives only stays in Montgomery County. It doesn't go to Houston or Stewart County.
So it all stays in Montgomery County?
It absolutely all
Okay.
stays here.
Second question, what percentage of the funding that you receive actually goes to the organizations that you provide funding to?
So when you're asking me percentages, like what number are you looking for?
Overall, just percentage.
So if I was to give you percentage, most of the nonprofits that we have right now can't afford anybody who does what I do. Like, they don't have somebody who can go out and fundraise for them, such as the Sexual Assault Center. There's not a grant or an agency that can provide them funding to do the part that I do. So when I raise funds for them, that's all that they have. And then when they do have grants, their grants prohibit them from going out and fundraising. So their hands are double tied. So for instance, so we would say, like, I've been in it 6 months, we're right about 85% of our dollars go. But we fundraise and we advocate every day.
I might add, and I know historically you have done this, the United Way has done this, you have provided the commission with a list of where you actually, once you've gone through your vetting process for the grants that come to you, of where our funds actually go.
Yes, absolutely.
You have provided that to us in the past.
Yes.
Can we get that?
Absolutely, and if
Again?
you actually, in the little pamphlet I just gave you,
Yes.
outside of the ones that say Stewart and Houston, those are all the ones that we provide that for. So you'll look inside of there, it'll say SAFE, it'll say SAC, it'll say Manna Cafe, all of those places, it's in the pamphlet that you have right now.
In that pamphlet, does it show the actual dollar amounts
No,
that
we
are
could actually
donated
show,
to each
we
one?
sure.
Because
we
I,
sure.
I would love to see that.
Absolutely.
So, okay. And then my last question is, what kind of salaries expense does the organization have?
What kind of salary? Now, I wish I would have known that you were going to ask that. I would have brought
You
that.
can get it to me later.
You want to know how much I make?
Sure.
I can tell you that.
Sure.
I make 60.
Okay.
Now, what I could have asked for was more, but however, what I didn't want to do, right, because of the qualification and what I do, I also put in way more hours than the average person does at their job. Outside of that, I also, go ahead.
So final question.
Got it.
As a fellow elected official,
Absolutely.
you have constituents that you serve as well.
Yes.
Do you understand the concern that some of us, myself included, would have using taxpayer money to fund a nonprofit? It doesn't matter which nonprofit it is.
Such as the museum, such as the library, such as which we already do, such as parks, which we say is for the good of the citizens, such as we have homeless people sitting in those parks, such as, so yes, as a public official, I absolutely understand that. And I also, as a public official, have always supported giving to nonprofits because I know that as every day, we don't always have, we say, well, everyone, the private citizens should do it. Well, they're not always doing it. Sometimes our private citizens are the ones that are needing the help. So yeah, no, I've been there and I've done that and I absolutely have supported them. And I also give to United Way from my own funds. I'm a leadership giver.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Commissioner Gannon.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions for you. I just
Okay.
want to talk about, I guess I could ask you one question that I was going to bring up to clarify to make sure. Does the city of Clarksville give to the United Way?
The city of Clarksville, they did not, they've taken that out. That was voted
Okay.
out, yeah.
That's what, so that would be the only question I have for you. But basically, I think the United Way does a great job. I mean, I've been involved in the past and been on some of the committees that go visit where we're going to give and all that stuff. And I think you do an absolutely wonderful job.
Yes.
And I think you've been a great director for your term that you've been there and for the previous directors. I mean, I can't say enough about how good it is. But I wanted to kind of bring up how we got here.
Okay.
And Commissioner Leverett is very right. It's only been about 4 years that we've given straight to the United Way.
Right.
What occurred prior to that was during the budget process is that we had all these nonprofits that would come in front of us and ask for money. And we would pick whoever we would pick, and then we would come up with the total and whatever. And it got to be where somebody's would like this one or that one, and we really didn't like choosing who was the better nonprofit to give to and vice versa and so on and so forth. So, and we already had constituents that said, if I want to give to charities, I'll do it on my own. I'd rather the government didn't want to do it or whatever. So, and we had talked about decreasing the amount and kind of following the city's way and maybe getting rid of giving to the nonprofit organizations. But, we decided to trim it down that year to $130,000 and give it to the United Way and let them decide who to give it to. So that way it took the burden off us 4 years ago in order not to have to pick whether it's Manna Cafe or whether it was Wounded Warrior or whether it was any of these others that came in. And there was a long line of them that came in. But our noble goal was to decrease it then to 130 and give it to the United Way and let them do it, which would take us off the hook and to do that. And we had discussed probably eventually eliminating it, decreasing it a little bit each year and to the verge of where we kind of eliminated that for the budget. But for whatever reason, that didn't happen. We just stayed at 130, and that's where we are today. One of the reasons that we talked about maybe decreasing it, and the reason that we did decrease it and talking about eliminating it, because many of us talked, and that's another county employee. That's another sheriff. That's another EMT. That's another ambulance and stuff that we could spend that money on. And to do that, not that the charities don't do great work and stuff like that. So, and I voted to eliminate the United Way the last time we voted based on those reasons, and I'm probably going to do it again. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
But I think you do great work and all that other stuff, but I just wanted to kind of give some of the ones that weren't here before a little history on how we got here and things of that
And the
nature.
same way you have those ambulances and, those people who have had firefighters, they'll be calling the American Red Cross, they'll be calling those Manna Cafes because they're needing food. I'm also an extension of what you all are doing.
Sure.
I'm not a silo. However, the same way you're getting this funding to do the things that you just get, guys just got grants. You just got grants. You just wanting to accept grants right now. That is still taxpayer money. I'm asking for the same exact thing for a grant that you just accepted.
But again, I go back to, and I didn't know we were going to do a back and
Oh,
forth, and you're
I'm
going to
sorry.
continue to
I'm
rebuttal
sorry.
every
Yeah.
time somebody says anything. But in the same token, you can talk to a lot of constituents, and you as a councilwoman know
And
that.
ta- and I'm-
And we just follow the city's lead because the city doesn't give anymore, and we also listen to several
doesn't mean we won't
constituent
bring
that
it back.
says that if I want to give to my own charity, I'll do it. Yes, I want an ambulance, and yes, I want a park, and that's what the county does, and yes, I want a school and all that kind of stuff. But it's not our
Commissioner
mandate.
Gannon, with all due respect, question.
I do. She was the one that rebutted. I'm sorry, Mayor.
I'm just saying,
Thank you, sir.
I disagree. I understand where y'all are going. I don't want to fuss at either one of you, but we asked her to come up here to ask questions, not to debate. So shame on both of you then.
My bad. Sorry.
Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Guzman, I got a quick question for you. As Mr. Gannon expressed, I'm actually the sponsor of the resolution that we cut the funding for United Way, so
Yes.
I want to make sure that's out there in the public to let you know. And I appreciate you being here, I do. How long ago was the funding cut from the city of Clarksville?
I want to say it was probably 2 years.
So 2 years or so? Okay. And I know I've had a lot of feedback personally. Majority of that feedback's been positive towards what I proposed. Here's the question for you. I'm thinking of myself as a person that listens to input from everyone and try to come up with solutions that would reach and actually succeed. Looks like to me 130,000, if there's 85% of that actually goes to the underlying agencies that the United Way would fund. Would you be opposed if we use the United Way as the due diligence source? And we actually, 130,000, we could actually save $20,000 if we actually funded the 110,000, which actually went to those agencies. Would you be opposed to that?
You can give the 130 and we can say that all of it will go to the agencies.
But you said
I'm
the
just telling
130
you,
we gave
I'm
last
telling
year
you.
did not. Only 110,000 of it went, right?
But I wasn't that director. I'm telling you right now, if you gave the 130 can directly go to those nonprofits.
I think a lot of our concerns is taking taxpayer money to a nonprofit. And one of the things is I consider 15% to be a high level of internal expenses
And if you
towards
look,
going to that aspect.
Right.
I mean, I would prefer if we gave 130,000, 130,000 goes to those member agencies. And I fund several of those myself.
so,
Are you saying that you would make a change?
absolutely. I would absolutely do that. If you needed 130, of course, I would take it to my board, but I don't do this work for the money. I do this work because it's important. I do this work because every day. So if that was the way we could get it so that people could have what they need, then absolutely.
I think people would feel a little better about it if that, could you get your board to look at that and give us some written confirmation of that back?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Knight.
I'm probably going to echo the exact same sentiments that Commissioner Gannon had initially echoed and, say, hey, you guys have done great work for the community, but on the community's aspect, there's a lot of taxpayers that says, we don't like the opportunity or the idea of having that opportunity of us being able to donate to a particular organization taken away from us and having the county provide funds and resources to an organization that's a 501c3. That being said, the only question I have is, what other funding sources do you have, and would it sustain the services that you currently provide?
I'm sorry, say that one more time. What funding sources do I have?
What other funding services do you have?
I've been in this position for 6 months, so am I looking for other funding sources? I absolutely am. We actually do workplace partners, so we have partners throughout the city, which is over 100 businesses that actually give to United Way. So the 130, you were just one of my business partners that are contributing to our community. So that's one, and then what was the other question? I'm sorry.
With those funding sources, will it fund all the services and resources that you guys provide?
So our goal is at $1.5 million to be able to give our agencies what they ask for. In times past, we still haven't been able to do that. So even when we didn't have it, people just didn't have, and they managed their way through it anyway, which isn't good because our city's growing. So when you take 15 or you take 25,000 from an agency, we literally had to say, Manna Cafe, we're sorry, you can't, we don't get to help you build that. And they didn't build it as fast as they wanted to, the center that had to build, because we didn't have enough, because that's what was given to me at the time. But yes. So if we had all of the money and we got the 1.5 million, we would absolutely be able to fund them what they asked for.
So you'll be able to sustain without the 130,000. So that's all I'm asking.
So there'll be some agencies that will do without, yes. Not on this watch, but for next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leverett, I'm going to go to Commissioner Riccone since he hasn't spoke on the issue yet. Commissioner Riccone?
Well, I want to be brief. It's a simple question that we all have to ask ourselves, and we'll answer it when we vote. You either support the county giving to a nonprofit, knowing that it's going to come back to our community, or you don't support it. And there's arguments both sides. I think you could vote either way in good conscience and just do what you feel is right. But I will say, I was Googling this. I know the former director, Ms. Holloman, report it to us all the time. I just looked, you hit the 84%, which is the standard word that United Way puts out. And I want to say that y'all reported back to us, because it was local money staying local, that it was as much as 96% passing through, if not 100%. So I really appreciate Commissioner Harper's he's such a keen financial mind on that. He was kind of getting to our dollars working 100%. So I'd love for you to verify that, because my recollection is it wasn't 84%, it was 96, if not 100. And then with that data, we can all make our own decision. I tell you, I want to apologize. You're on the hot seat up there, and asking what you make annually is an inappropriate comment and question from this body. So I apologize to you for that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leverett?
The only other thing I wanted to add to this was, when funding is given to organizations like United Way has an obligation to transparency and accountability, and to show and document where those dollars are going. And I think Ms. Guzman has been gracious enough to say, hey, come in and look at the books. I think it would be prudent as a legislator and as a researcher to go to the United Way and look at the dollar amounts and look at their books and go visit the agency and go see who they're giving to and the actual work they're doing, so that you can get a different lens and a different perspective. I'm sure that Ms. Guzman wouldn't mind bringing those dollars back, because when receiving government funding, you do have to have a level of accountability and transparency in numbers, and I'm sure at any time we can go in and see those numbers. So that's all that I have at this time.
Before I step, I think someone who's worked there longer may have an answer for me really quick.
Ms. Sarah?
Yes.
Sarah, if you would, please introduce yourself.
She's like, uh-oh.
I'm Sarah Wood. I work with United Way. I just want to confirm that the $130,000 will go 100%. It always has for the past 4 years.
Thank you. Commissioner Harper, do you have another question?
Question.
Okay. Thank you. I would just, as a point of information, and I said it's at the Budget Committee meeting, my wife is honorary chair of your annual fundraising campaign. I abstained from voting in the Budget Committee, but I want everybody to know that it is an honorary position. She's not on the board or anything like that. And I have to ask, I hate to do this, but Mr. Riccone, if you could come forward, my daughter's 9 centimeters, and they said I need to get to the hospital. So I apologize. It may be a first, but I'm going to give the chair to Commissioner Riccone. Thank you. I think they're through with you.
Oh,
At
yay.
least I am. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I was trying to keep this moving.
There you go. Okay. No other discussion. You're on
9-4. All right, with no further discussion, we're going to move to Resolution 1910-4, resolution to provide funding. Nope, sorry. Sorry. 1910-5, resolution to amend animal care control regulations regarding reporting of rabies vaccination registration fee and collection. I know this came up in the Budget Committee. Right now, it was going quarterly, and the thought was to move it to a monthly so it could be better accounted for and we could stay on top of the collection and the registration of the tags with the fees. Is there any questions? All right, moving to the next one. I don't know how to work this. 1910-6, resolution adopting a purpose for Montgomery County Department Veteran Service Organization. Again, when this came up, when going back through, there's a requirement that there be a purpose outline. And if you look through your notes, I believe County Attorney Mr. Harvey had gone through and put together a purpose for the Montgomery County Department Veterans Service Organization. Does that sound right?
That's correct.
Any questions regarding the purpose and the reason for making this amendment to it? All right, seeing none. 1910-7 is pulled. 1910-8 is pulled. 1910-9, resolution approving the formation of the Montgomery County Sports Authority. There was, for historical records, we did have a sports authority. It was a combined city-county authority. At some point, about 2 years ago, that authority was just merged and overtaken, taken into CVB. With the proposed MPEC and looking at that, the county believes that it needs to form a Montgomery County Sports Authority. And if you look through what's in your agenda, you'll see kind of outlining that, and there are some proposed members. So, Commissioner Knight.
Question I have is, who's presiding over that commission or committee? Is it just those 3 individuals that's outlined in that document? Or do we have any county representatives sitting on that particular board?
You can step in. I mean, I've read through it.
The application was made by 3 individuals to form a sports authority, which is required by the statute. The 3 individuals are 3 of our state delegation. That application or petition is received by us, and so this resolution is to form the charter, and the charter contains the names of the first proposed board of directors, each with staggering terms of 2, 4, and 6 years. So that should be in the document. It's in the charter, in the resolution. That's correct. And that's the full charter.
Yeah, so all the rules and regulations and how it would govern and function are set forth in the charter. I'm looking for the exact page that sets that out for you. But the 3 names were for formation. Page.
Do y'all see that? I mean, you're
Yeah.
finding it in there if you're not?
Page
Okay.
13 on your PDF. It's paragraph 3, Board of Directors, Bradley Jackson down to Kyle Luther. All right. Any other questions, Commissioner Knight?
Say thank you.
I'm doing as best I can. All right, Commissioner Bill.
Thank you. You did answer one of my questions. So this was absorbed into the CVB, but now we're looking to kind of restart it. Is that?
Right. So, and this is for just the personal history for me. I actually was on that original board. I was vice president. We met a few times, toured some facilities. It just died a slow death. It had to have a meeting once a year. Got a phone call and said, y'all aren't meeting, y'all aren't doing anything. CVB took it over. But it was still the way it was formed. Had various people, now CVB, I don't want to say, we're not saying control, that's not the right term. This is just me telling you my understanding of it. But this is a county, and a county I have the direct, per the charter.
Okay. And my other question is the list of board of directors here. Can you give us some information on how these people were selected and what the process was for consideration of these people?
I believe the mayor or the mayor's staff, I don't know.
I think they were asked whether they would be willing to serve, and went through the process from the mayor's office. So I assume the mayor, when he looks for people in the community who are willing to serve on the airport authority or any board of citizens, he makes inquiry and see if called upon will they serve. I will tell you this, the real important thing is the previous board was made up of 5 appointees from the city and 5 appointees from the county and 1 joint appointment. So that board, this is for a total county project, so these are total county appointees, and that's the real driving force.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate it. Doing a great job up there today. Quick question. To me, it seems a tad premature to even consider this. Here's why. We haven't even considered the funding of the construction of the multipurpose center. I said until we do, I think it's just inappropriate to even form a Montgomery Sports Authority, and we should make that concurrent with the funding. I think anything else is putting the cart ahead of the horse. I would encourage my fellow commissioners to consider that. I just strongly feel that the formation of the Sports Authority before the funding of the MPC is a bit premature. Thanks.
Is there any rationale for contracts or anything?
Let me please heavily emphasize that I'm not a decision maker. I won't vote, and I'm not attempting to lobby. But one of the points about establishing a sports authority is that it is in place and ready to operate. So as we begin signing contracts, we've got someone ready to go. A few months ago, I was asked about signing, how far along we were with the lease with Austin P. You have to have some certain shoes drop. We are looking at the contract with the Predators now, and it contemplates that there'll be the use of a sports authority. So, as we're putting things into place, something has to come first. And I can tell you specifically, the bid that was put out for the consulting management initially during construction for design, which involves the Predators, specifically details that Montgomery County independently or through a sports authority will enter into that agreement. So, Commissioner Harper is hopefully conversant with me enough to understand I'm not lobbying against his point, but simply saying that putting this in place doesn't obligate us on future contracts or obligations, but establishes a sports authority. If nothing else, you've had a sports authority for about 8 years that's done nothing, so it can literally kind of sit there.
And I will say, Mayor left at probably the worst time. We ran a little too long for the school system. So I believe these are really good questions. I'm sure we'll address these at our formal meeting as well. We can address these issues. Commissioner Albert?
Just a couple of things that being on that sports authority on the CVB board, We have not done anything in years. And to serve on that committee, you cannot be a county employee and you cannot be an elected official. So those people are automatically eliminated by serving on that board, if I'm correct, Mr. Harvey. And also on the Sports Authority, getting it to come forward now, that will not be the only thing they will address. You know, the CVB may bring other sporting events here that may need to go through the Sports Authority as well. So it's just time now that we reiterate that it's time to make that happen again. Thank you.
Commissioner Gannon, AKA Commissioner King.
Well, first of all, you should be happy that number 7 and 8 were pulled, so at least that went to your favor.
I was.
My question is, and I don't know if you have the answer for it or if attorney has the answer for it, but why are there no county commissioners on the board of directors? Is there a rule or a law or something of that nature, or is it just the way that you composed it?
They're statutorily ineligible.
Thank you.
County commissioners are. Frankly, one of Mr. Albert's comments was a little broader than that, and I don't know that I really track. I'd have to go back and look at the statute to see if all elected officials are. Maybe the trustees not precluded, but county commissioners are not allowed.
Commissioner Knight.
So I'm just a little confused in regards to page 13 where it says, the governing body hereby appoints the following persons as the board of directors of the authority and provides these several names on here. So are we the choosing authority to choose the individuals that go on this particular board? Do we go through a process of vetting these individuals, going through their particular resume and documentation and saying, yes, let's put these individuals on here? Or are these individuals just chosen for us, tossed in on some paperwork and says, here, county commission, hey, go ahead and sign this document?
Well, how you would characterize it is not for me to say. How it works is they are nominated or appointed by the mayor to be approved by the county commission. So these were however many there are, and I think there are 9. They were selected by the mayor through whatever process you can ask him about, and they are for you to approve. And you're here to approve the charter, which talks about not only their original appointment, but how they function. All subsequent appointments would be appointed by the mayor, subject to approval by the county commission, which is what the statute says.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Pritchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I know that a lot of you are fairly young and forget that many years ago, we had a baseball team here in Clarksville, and a good one at that, and they were a farm team for Cincinnati. And we didn't have a sports authority, we had no framework, and eventually we lost that team. This sports authority would not just be useful for the impact, which of course it's going to help a lot, but in the way that Clarksville is growing, we're going to be looking towards other sporting events, sporting teams, et cetera. Having a sports authority is like having a spider web, and it's in place. So we already have something that we can utilize to form these teams, to have these teams come here, to do a lot of other outside sporting events. I think it's a great thing. I think we need to do it. I think that Clarksville, the city of Clarksville and Montgomery County have a lot of eligible people that we can have on this sporting authority. As I see from the board of directors, those are very community-oriented people that have been listed here. So I'm all for it, and I think it's something that's worthwhile for Montgomery County.
Thank you. Commissioner Bill.
Thank you. Just a really quick kind of follow-up to what you just said. I don't think the concern is having a sports authority. It's not understanding the process that was used to come up with these nominees. I don't know that it was an open nomination process. I don't know if any of us even know that. So I think that's the concern, is what was the process to actually bring these names forward?
Well, I would imagine that the mayor went through the normal process that he vets and selects people for anything that he appoints, but that's a question for next week. Commissioner Woodruff.
Thank you, Mayor. I count seven, people that are on this board. Is there a salary associated with this, or they just volunteering, or just volunteering? No salary?
No salary.
Okay, that's my question.
Volunteering or arm twisting, I'll let you make that choice.
Got it.
All right. Nothing further? Resolution 191010, resolution to appropriate funds to cover hardware and cabling needs for new employees. Mr. Bryant, would you like to address this? Or I know it was, we can have direct questions. In the Budget Committee, it came up that there were new employee requests. Those requests were granted in the budget process. There is some hardware that was not in the budget, so this is to address some hardware for those new employees and some PCI compliant terminals, and I do not know what that is. So, Mr. Bryant? Trustee's office, for the trustee's office.
Does anyone have any questions about why we're having to do this?
Perfect. All right. Thank you. All right, under reports, number one, nominating committee nomination reports. Commissioner Gannon.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The nominating committee met today at 5:30 on October the 7th. And under the delinquent tax sales, and we will enter these in next week as a motion, but for the delinquent tax and sales release committee, which is a 2-year term, Commissioner Ricky Ray is nominated to replace Commissioner Garland Johnson for a 2-year term to expire in October of 2021. Commissioner Walker Woodruff was filling an unexpired term for Jason Hodges and is eligible to serve a 2-year term to expire October 2021. Commissioner Camille Chandler has been filling an unexpired term of Martha Brockman and is eligible to serve a 2-year term to expire October 2021. Board of Health, 4-year term. Dr. Charles Fitch, physician licensed to practice in the state of Tennessee, has completed a 4-year term and is eligible to serve another 4-year term to expire October of 2023. And Dr. Jeannie Beauchamp, a dentist licensed to practice dentistry in the state of Tennessee, has completed a 4-year term and is eligible to serve another 4-year term to expire October of 2023. On the Industrial Development Board, which is a 6-year term, Leo Milan is nominated to fill an unexpired term of James Corlew, who resigned, with a term to expire in June 20th of 2023. And I will enter those in as a motion in our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gannon. Under county mayor appointments, Nicholas Baker appointed as new member of the Senior Citizens Board of Directors due to a change in bylaws which increased board membership from 12 to 14. Term to expire in April 2022. That's the only mayor appointment. In your Dropbox, you'll find reports filed. Please have a chance to look through those for our next meeting. Any old business, new business? There are no announcements. We're adjourned. I knew I was trying to get past that.